Thank you for logging in and showing interest in this solution. So what I want to do right now is just show you very quickly so you feel comfortable with where everything is, where all the features are that you need to test this lab. So what I'm going to do is just give you a very quick overview of what and where all those things can be found, and then we'll dig a little bit deeper into the training sessions. So this is what you'll be presented with as soon as you arrive. If we click on the Start tab, these are the key areas. Obviously, the Outlook itself is very important to access and test archived email as from an end user perspective. Internet Explorer will also be used as far as OWA access is concerned, and also our archive web interface. Enterprise Manager, this is where we're going to go into more detailed training sessions, talking about how to set up jobs, policies, retention times, and all those necessary features that make up an enterprise archiving solution. And last but not least, the Archive Manager configuration, which is going to show you how we set up storage media, lifecycle management, and more. So the other features that you see here do not need to be accessed or modified in any way. Obviously, we have set up this lab in a very specific environment, so it makes it as easy and as comfortable as possible for you to access and, of course, test the solution properly. Good. So it's quite easy. The first place to start is definitely the Enterprise Manager. So all we need to do is look for it, click on it, wait for it to load. There we go. And this is what you'll be presented with at the very beginning. Always the initial configuration wizard. Now, if you don't want that to show every time you open the application, all you need to do is check this box. But out of the box, default, it has actually been set up in that way. And we've done this work for you already, so you can start testing immediately. But if you want to review everything that we've done to basically import the mailboxes or groups, setting retention categories, defining jobs, configuring groups and email filtering, you can go ahead and test those features out yourself. I'm going to show you how that works in the other sessions. But right now, out of the box, that's been set up for you now to test immediately. Other areas here, if we just run through the tabs, here are group tabs, settings tab, public folders, jobs, retention time, post-processing, and locations. And we're going to dig specifically into retention times, jobs, and how we apply those to groups in the training sessions to come. If you want to look at some other features, please go ahead. Of course, you can dig into many different areas within Archive Manager Exchange Edition, and you'll find there's a lot of rich features there. For example, the archive view, where you can see specifically which end users have in fact been archived. Other areas are Options tab, where you can see how we've set up the server role, how we've set up public folders to be archived, how we've set up auditing, for example, and other archiving settings like compression, attachments, default retention times, shortcut creation, links, and other advanced settings, for example, like working with Unicode. And above and beyond that, we've also set up the search for you, so it's easy for you to test the search functionality using the end user console out of Outlook, and also obviously using it from the admin console here in the Archive Manager Exchange Edition Enterprise Manager. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dig a little deeper into what all these features can do and how you can start to work with Archive Manager Exchange Edition. So here we are in the Archive Manager Exchange Edition admin console, running on AWS, Amazon Web Services. And as you can see here, there's a lot of very specific settings and tabs that will help you to start archiving, will help you to test out the solution. So let's dig into one, and one of those is the Jobs tab. What we're going to do now is we're going to choose one of these groups here, and we're going to set up an archiving job. So we're going to apply a specific job to that set of groups and users inside that group, and I'm going to show you exactly how that works. And this is something you can go ahead and test yourselves right after this particular lesson. So let's take something like employees. By right-clicking the mouse, we can show the members. So again, we've added these members using the AD Address Book Manager tool, which we'll cover later. But as I said, we've already gone ahead and set this up for you so you can start testing immediately. So what we've done is we've created a group of, it could be an existing AD group, which includes administrator, Jeff Smith, John Doe, Mandy Burgess, Mike, and we've put them into this employees group here. Let's close that down now. So by right-clicking the mouse again, we can check the properties. So these are the properties that we actually set up already, but we're going to go and we're going to change those properties and start a brand new job. So just so it's clear, you must stop a job from working before you go ahead and change any policies to it for obvious reasons. So there's a couple of very easy ways to do that. Firstly, by unchecking this box and applying. And then if we come back here, we'll see the green color has disappeared. It's now gone white. So that means we can now make changes to that group and start applying or modifying the jobs themselves. Now, if you do modify jobs, it does not mean that the retention time can be changed for those emails that have already been archived. We will cover retention times in a different session, but just so it's clear, retention time is tied directly to archived email, and so it's very important that you decide how long you want emails to be archived. But we will cover that in the retention session. So let's go ahead here. So we've stopped the job. Again, right-click the mouse, open up the properties. Now we can see lots of things here. We can see general, scheduler, exclude, classes, quota, and script, and I'm going to cover all of those right now. So by default, you do have a default retention category out of the box. Default is 60 months. If you want to create your own, again, we'll talk about that later, but what we'll do right now is we'll just choose that default retention category. So that means those emails, as of now, the new emails, will be archived specifically for that period of time, which is 60 months. We've also said right now we're going to archive files then 0 days bigger than 0 bytes. That means we're going to archive everything all the time. But we're going to change that now. Let's say everything older than 30 days will be archived and everything younger than 30 days will not be archived. And if you want to go even more granular, you can also change the file size. But in this case, we'd like to capture everything. We're just worried about the age rather than the size. Let's move on to the scheduler. Here we can see a job has been applied to it. Again, we'll cover jobs in a separate session, but right now we're running the nightly archiving job. You will see other jobs here as you add them, but right now that's just the standard one. It's running every single day. It's starting at 8 p.m. and it's scheduled. Good. Now this is also very important. So by default, all mailbox folders are processed. So if you do want to exclude specific folders from the archiving process, you can do that here. Let's not forget that we can also archive the journal mailbox. So if you want to capture everything, incoming and outgoing, we can also add a journal mailbox archiving job. But in this case, we're doing what we call active archiving. So we're picking and choosing exactly which emails or which mailboxes are in fact archived, and also down as granular as which folders we would like to have excluded from the archiving process. So we'd like to take out the outbox, for example, maybe not deleted items. And if you want to add one here, please go ahead. I'm taking junk as an example. Add it. If you want to add another one, you can go ahead, but that junk folder now, should there be one, will now be added to the exclusion, archiving process exclusion. Let's move on. Classes, very important. So if you want to archive different message classes, this is the place to add them. So by default, you've got note, document, and post. Many people would like to obviously archive appointments. Feel free to create appointments in the Outlook client yourself, and then go ahead and test out this appointment archiving. Same thing goes for contacts and maybe tasks. So you can pretty much add what you want there. Again, if you want to add those specific, let's say, items that are on a recurring basis, archive them manually, and then come back here and test out those jobs, feel free to do so. Quota. So if you want to add a specific quota group, you can do that as well. You'd have to set up that within the settings. Quota basically means we can add a limit to how much actually gets archived on a mailbox before it starts, before the archiving process begins. So you can set a threshold of, let's say, 1 or 2 gigabytes before archiving automatically kicks in. It's up to you how you want to use that, but if you want to test it out, you can do that by setting a quota job up in the settings tab here. And last but not least, don't get scared when you see this, but this is our scripting tool, which basically means everything that I've shown you here now, if that is something that, you know, it's good enough for 98% of our customers out there. But for those of you that maybe want to have something extra special, maybe you'd like to archive something with a specific content or something with a specific name in the tag, for example, and classify it somehow, then this scripting tool is something you can use. Now, if you do want to use this, you would need to contact us for a library of scripts. We don't actually have the scripts in the test drive environment, quite simply because we'd like you to test everything obviously out of the box, and I think you'll find that everything out of the box normally covers 99.9% of all your email archiving requirements, but should you have very specific requirements, the scripting tool is there. Good, so I'll clear it so it doesn't override it, because it's very important that that is not actually in action, shall we say. Otherwise it will overwrite all the jobs that we've just set up. So let's clear it, check apply, let's just double check everything. Okay, default, scheduler, exclude, very good. Let's click OK. So it's set there now. We've got default, we've changed the modification to that specific date. We've changed the specific size, left the specific size, we've excluded the folders and added a couple of message classes. Now all we need to do is go ahead, again, show the properties, check the box here to archive it, click apply, click OK, and the job is active. Okay, so it's as easy as that to set up specific policies with your groups. I said we'll look at some of those other features in more depth in different sessions. Session 3, retention times. So here we can see an overview of a default retention time. It's quite simple. If we just go ahead and double click it, there you can open it up to see exactly how those settings have been applied. So here we can see the default name, the scheme. That's actually the target logical store. We'll talk about stores in the admin console, in the HSM console later. We can see the retention time that's been fixed here. We can see other features like delete retention times, shortcuts, etc. So what we'll do is we'll create a new one from scratch so you can see how that works. Right click the mouse till you see new category, open up new category, and there in front of you is the category name. You can call it what you like. I'm going to call mine test. Here we need to define, we must always define the HSM scheme. There we go, exchange. And here you can decide whether you want the lifetime calculated from the archive time or from the receive time. Completely up to you how you want to do that. Let's go ahead from the receive time. Click next. So now we can define our retention time. So it can be fixed, it can be indefinite, meaning until you say enough, or it can be infinite, which does what it says on the tin forever. We're going to go ahead and create a fixed one now, as this is what's used by the majority of our clients. Let's go ahead and say 80 months. So it will now be archived for 80 months. Whatever rules or whatever mailboxes we actually apply to the groups for that retention time will be archived for that amount of time, so 80 months. So there's some other features here as well you can look at. So this basically means if you would like to go ahead and delete an email, an attachment after 80 months has been reached, so automatically do that. You can set that up here, but look, if we check next, we don't get any further. Why is that? Because the delete retention time cannot be smaller than the minimum retention time. This is just making double sure that this is really what you want to do. So you actually physically have to set the retention time, the delete time, to be more than the actual minimum retention time. So it's very important that you, if you do want to go ahead and check this automatic deletion, that you obviously have to specify that delete time as well. So as that is not, again, an option which is used by the majority of our clients, most organizations would prefer to pick and choose when they want to basically stop or when they want to remove or delete their data from the storage media, from the archive, once the retention period has expired. Obviously that cannot be done until the retention time has in fact been reached. Once that time is reached, then you can go ahead and move, copy from store to store, and if necessary, delete if you want to, but only once the retention time has in fact been reached. So I'm going to leave that unchecked, because I said that's what 98% of our 5,000 customers currently do, is leave that unchecked, because they prefer to control their own content once the retention time has in fact been reached. So let's click next. So now we've got some more detailed options here, especially around shortcut lifetime. By default, it will create a shortcut immediately, and it will delay a shortcut if you want it to. You can keep a shortcut forever or delete a shortcut after a time. So by default, create immediately, keep forever is there. But if you want to change some, please go ahead and try it out. Here you can delay a shortcut. That basically means the email will be archived, but the shortcut will not be created, I should say, in Exchange, and will not be created in the Outlook client. That means the end user will still access the email and attachment as normal, as if it has been unarchived. But the fact is that it has been archived, and then once 30 or 31 days, or depending on whether it's the month of February, obviously less, 28, once you reach that actual number of days, or the 1 month period, it will then be created or converted into a shortcut. And if you want to delete, let's say, shortcuts that are filling up over years, you can go ahead and set this delete shortcut time as well. So that basically means every shortcut that is older than 3 years will be removed from Exchange, from Outlook, but obviously the email attachments are still sitting in the archive. Nothing is removed physically from the archive. I'm going to go ahead and keep shortcut forever, because that's, again, is a favorite option. There we go. So now we've set everything up. Don't need to worry about this. That's basically synchronizing the shortcuts, but you can do that if you want to. Let's go ahead and click finish. And there we go. We've got our test retention time here. And if we go back to our groups here and pick another one, let's go to the admin, right click the mouse, check the properties, come here to retention categories. Here we can go ahead, and if you want to, change the retention time to this. Remember, everything up to that point that's been archived using the initial retention time will still remain using that retention time in the archive. Only brand new mails that have not been archived will actually inherit this new retention category. But let's go ahead and click apply, and that's it. Here we can see here the retention time has in fact been changed as well. So that's a nice overview of setting up retention times. Go ahead and see how many you can create. The possibilities are endless, but yeah, you can go ahead, mix and match your retention times and apply those to those groups and users and test it out for yourself. So here we can see a nice overview of the existing jobs that we've got running here: a sync job, a delete files job, and a nightly archiving job. What I'm going to do though is go ahead and right click the mouse, new job. Try this out for yourself. So here we can see some different jobs. We've got a normal job, a threshold job, a sent items job, and a shortcut sync job. If you have any questions about these, just let the mouse hover over the name, and then you can see exactly what each of these mean. Okay, we're going to go ahead and create a normal job. We'll call it job 3. an exciting name. You can call it whatever you like. And here we're going to come and decide exactly or define which retention time we're going to apply to it. Now, in the retention time presentation, we created our new one. So let's go ahead and take that one. Test. And now we're going to schedule it. So scheduling will start at a specific time. That's today, for example, at 8 o'clock, but you can change that to whatever you like. Scheduling ends on maybe next year, this time next year. Up to you, okay? But for testing purposes, I suggest maybe if you would like to test it immediately, obviously the AWS lab has 4 hours of testing. So I suggest if you do want to test out the scheduling job, you maybe change it to within the next 10 minutes from now. Is probably the best way to test the scheduling archiving feature. We can also set up the scheduling interval. And as I mentioned before, in the AWS test environment, it's probably best if you do this immediately because of the time that you have to test the solution. And again, let's let it run for 1 hour maximum. You've got 4 hours to test in the AWS environment, but just to be sure, it's best to kick off this job immediately. So whatever time you're in right now, try to map it obviously with the time that you see here, because that's what it's reading from, and then go ahead and run that scheduled job. Last but not least, by default, compression is there, so you don't need to check any of these boxes. Okay, and now we've created a job. So a scheduled job. If you want to go ahead and schedule a job that's going to kick off in the next 15 to 20 minutes, perfect. Now all you need to do again is go back to your groups or users, choose whichever one you want to have, add the properties here, and then go ahead and put your new job setting in there. So obviously we've got our retention time here, scheduler, and there we can see job 3. That's the job I just created, but you can name it whatever you like. Go ahead, it's going to happen every minute, as I said before. And the most important thing is that that time there is the same or within, let's say, 30 minutes of the time since you kicked off this specific section of the lab. So you've got 4 hours, but yeah, the best way to test the scheduled archiving feature is to go ahead and set that up pretty much immediately. Let's click apply. And there we go. So that managers group there, again, if we right click it, we can have a look at the members. Stephen West is now being archived. So once that job has in fact been completed, you can then go ahead to the archive tab feature here and look inside managers, Stephen West, for example, and then you can see what has in fact been archived from Stephen West. So that's a nice overview of the jobs tab. Any questions? Please feel free to review the evaluation guide that we have there, and of course have a look at more in-depth set descriptions on our website and also in our admin guide. Address Book Manager synchronization. So if you remember, when we actually set this lab up, we did all of the initial synchronization. That means the users, the groups, Exchange itself for you. But for those of you who obviously would like to know how we did that, let's take a look at that now. So we're going to go to something called the Address Book Manager, which is under Tools here. Click on Address Book Manager, and it's going to open up this specific feature. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to just make it a little bit bigger. And here we can see all the paths here. We've got the general settings, favorites, servers, groups, and mailboxes. Now, if you want to test some for yourself, a very good place to start is something called the Setup Wizard. Here you can go ahead if you want to and re-import some of the features that we've got here already. But what I want to do now is just basically take you around how we set that up so it's clear to you. So let's go back to General Settings. And here we can see we've got the LDAP path. We've got specific features like automatic synchronization parameters, which will then go and configure automatically for environments that have a large influx and outflux of AD users or people who are coming in and out of the company or who need to be synchronized or resynchronized as they arrive, if you have a large company turnover, for example. Other areas we've got here are the favorites and obviously the server. So if we double click the server, here we can see the domain name, we can see the Exchange version that we imported. Obviously, if you wanted to test out Exchange 2013, you can do that in your own environment, but in the AWS environment, we currently have Exchange 2010, but Exchange 2013 is supported with Archive Manager Exchange Edition. And of course, beyond that, we can see the AD object, so associated Active Directory objects here, the server configuration path and the server distinguished name, just so you can see exactly how we set this up, what it looks like. That's it in detail. Feel free to play around with it. And of course, beyond that, the other important part are of course the groups or users. So by right-clicking the mouse, we can then add the group wizard. So if you wanted to go ahead and search for other users in AD, please go ahead. You can even re-import some of the existing ones in this test environment if you want to. I say we've done all of that for you in advance, so it's not necessary for you to do it again. But if you just want to go through the steps just to feel kind of comfortable as to how this gets set up, then again, please be our guest. So here we can see 34 new groups and 3 imported groups. So if you did want to play around with some of those, then please go ahead and try it out just to feel comfortable with the solution. And again, if we double click, left mouse double click something like journal mailboxes, for example, we can then see how we set this up as well using the name and the display name. We can see if it's a member of any specific group, and we can see who the members are, in this case, journal employees and journal managers. And of course, the advanced tab again, automatically allowing reference updates, automatically importing mailbox members. I said we've done all of this for you, but just so you can see what that looks like should you choose to install this in your own environment at some stage. And last but not least, the mailbox is here. And again, by double clicking the mailboxes, we can see inside the home server, the addresses, the mailbox DN, the GUID, the GUID as well of each unique mailbox, who that mailbox is a member of, in this case the employees group, any other information around it like the creation date, the modification date, and any other advanced criteria around, for example, statistics and any types of object properties. So again, feel free to take a look at this at your leisure. So feel free, again, if you do want to go ahead and walk yourself through that wizard here. It's fairly easy and very easy to import the Exchange server, for example, import mailboxes. But as I said, we've done all this work for you in advance so you can test the test drive out in plenty of time, in the 4-hour window that you have to test out the solution that we've set everything up for you to test out all the features that you'll find in this enterprise email archiving solution.